Okay, so tonight we're going to discuss political and social factors in the fall of Rome, and all our classical civilizations. So these are objectives 28 and 29. So you can number this sheet, the note-taking sheet, number 29. And just a reminder that our classical civilizations include the Mediterranean, which are Greece and Rome, and you can see at the top here the Forum and the Acropolis. And then we have the Chinese classical civilizations, the Zhou, the Qin, and the Han, and lastly the Indian, Mauryan, Gupta empires. I would maybe just rewrite those down to remind yourself at the top of your page. So in the words of Kanye, it all falls down. Every one of our civilizations that we're going to discuss this year, besides the ones in the last 30 years, are going to fall. The question is how and why. And that's what we're going to start to discuss today. So all of our classical civilizations fell for very similar reasons. So we're mostly just going to focus on Rome as our case study. So the major themes of all of our classical civilizations falling. They fell because of pressures from invaders. So the Huns, Attila the Hun, Visigoths, random nomadic tribes. This happened to China, India, and the Roman Empire. Additionally, they all had ineffective leaders, and as a result, regional leaders were taking more power, undermining the ineffective leaders. In all of our classical civilizations, our lower classes were treated poorly, which led to social unrest and a lot of rebellions from peasants and from slaves, creating instability. And all of these problems resulted in a loss of loyalty from the citizens of the civilization. So the reason for the camel is the saying, the straw that broke the camel's back. The message is that there's no single reason for the fall of our civilizations, but instead it's many, many factors combined together. And the straw that breaks the camel's back is that final straw that leads to the fall of a civilization. For example, the Huns invading Rome. They were already weakened when the Huns arrived. So the collapse of the Western Mediterranean, which is Rome. There are internal political factors, and so Western Mediterranean is the Roman Empire. And the internal political factors are that peasants are angry because slaves are taking all their work. We have a great amount of instability, so 25 of 26 emperors die violently in one 50-year span. So that is like our president being assassinated or overthrown or exiled or dying in battle every 2 years. If we had a new president every 2 years because one was murdered, we would not feel very secure or stable. So think about what kind of environment this creates. Questions 1 through 4, questions 1 through 3, you're going to need to answer kind of on your own as we go through this. And you might need to use your... So some more internal political factors. Again, 1 through 3 here. Diocletian divides the empire in two to make it easier to manage. It's rather divided already, and so he splits it up and creates another capital in the east and says, okay, I'll take care of the western half, and he actually sends Constantine to take care of the eastern half. When Constantine steps up to power in 312, again, he converts to Christianity and legalizes it. And in 322, Constantine says, see you, Rome, and makes the new capital of the entire empire in Constantinople in the Eastern Mediterranean. And I'll show you a map of that tomorrow. But this moving the capital significantly weakens the western half of the empire, where Rome really was. And it kind of leaves it to decline and strengthens the eastern half. So external political factors. Attila's Huns put pressure. So the Germanic tribes had been hired as mercenaries to defend the Roman border because the Romans were busy having parties and being self-indulgent, and none of the upper class wanted to be in the army. So instead, Rome had to pay Germanic people to protect the border. However, when the Huns are putting pressure on the Germanic tribes, the barbarians, have nowhere to go, and so they flee south into Rome and end up taking over Rome. And I'll show you this again tomorrow. But the Visigoths, who are Vandals and Germanic warriors, sack Rome and take over and put in their own leader in 410 CE. And it's not until 476 that the Roman Empire is totally removed, and therefore our Western Mediterranean simply collapses. And then, but still, our Eastern Mediterranean, Constantinople, the capital that Constantine set up, stays strong and becomes the Byzantine Empire, which will lead us into Unit 2. But you just need to know that Rome didn't entirely collapse, but the western part did. So, collapse of the Han and Gupta. Again, this is very similar to Rome. So there are pressures from invaders. The Han are also invaded by Attila the Hun, and the Gupta are invaded by the White Huns, another nomadic tribe from northern Asia. So everyone's getting invaded. In 220, the Han government totally collapses because of invasion by the Huns, and the Gupta falls, but Hinduism and the caste system survives. So life for the regular person in India doesn't actually change that much because the government didn't matter so much in the first place. Religion was really what was holding it together. So this is going to be a theme that India is not going to experience drastic change because they will remain Hindu. So be sure that you fill in your Venn diagram on the back of your page with that information. You might need to rewind a little bit to get it. And so Cicero, words from our Roman philosopher Cicero, is in Latin, where there's life, there's hope. And this should hint to you that although our civilizations are falling, not everyone's dying, and they will rise again. So on to social factors in the fall of Rome. Major themes, again, for all of our classical civilizations are that the lower classes are treated poorly and start to revolt. They demand more land. They demand better rights. And there's a loss of loyalty or faith to the empire because the people feel mistreated, and this leads to disunity, and it fractures identity. So this different ideas about what should happen and how things should be run breaks everyone into pieces, and there's not a lot of united empires. So social factors, these are what should go with your numbers. And the first is social strife and unrest between classes. The upper class is overtaxing the lower class and they're revolting, and we have the slaves taking peasant jobs and they're revolting. We have slave revolts led by Spartacus, who's in the movie Gladiator, but that, however, is not accurate because Gladiator takes place too early, but he's in there. More social. And the population decreases by more than 25% in Rome. So there's tension between social classes. And part of this is because of the capital being moved, because of mostly raising taxes and the upper class overtaxing and the people who live on their land. There's also some problems with the crops, have famines, and so there's not enough, which means starvation, flood, wars, and overtaxation. So Wang Mang is the leader at the time, and what do you think his political enemies said when all these bad things were happening? If you were thinking they said that Wang Mang lost the mandate of heaven, you were right, because that is the way that our emperors in China justify their power. They say they have the mandate of heaven, but remember, when horrible things happen and things aren't going well, the people believe that the gods are no longer on their side. Now, in the Gupta box, you should write that our regional social classes remain after the collapse, so the caste system persists, and we still have that hierarchy. And Hinduism is reaffirmed and stays the central identity. So just some more notes, and you can put this back Hinduism continues to bring in the box that's numbered. But the collapse of the Western Mediterranean is also created by the persecution of Christianity. Hopefully you put that on your timeline, because it really made people doubt the emperors and their power and not believe in them when they said that they were gods, etc. Here we have the picture of Constantine. It's a painting of Constantine on the battlefield when he was talked to by the angel and decided to convert to Christianity because he was saved by the one true God. And here is a statue in Rome of Constantine, just to get an idea that he's still ever present today. But some other issues that led to the collapse of the Western Mediterranean were Constantine moving the capital to the east, plagues, at low agricultural output, etc. And so our exit slip is more Latin from Ovid. And he says, "He who is not prepared today will be less prepared tomorrow." So Ovid has some advice for you guys who are procrastinators, and he says it will not pay off. On that note, I hope you have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Come with any questions you have.